The National Broadcasting Company presents Joe McCrea in Tales of the Texas Rangers. Tonight, transcribed from Hollywood, another authentic reenactment of a case from the files of the Texas Rangers. Tales of the Texas Rangers, starring Joel McCrea as Ranger Jace Pearson. Texas, more than 260,000 square miles, and 50 men who make up the most famous and oldest law enforcement body in North America. Now, from the files of the Texas Rangers come these stories based on fact. Only names, dates, and places are fictitious for obvious reasons. The events themselves are a matter of record. Case for tonight, hanging by a thread.
At 9:15 on the morning of May 5th, 1947, the telephone rang in the sheriff's office in the little town of Finney, Texas. Sheriff Hansen answered it.
Sheriff's office, Hansen speaking.
Sheriff, this is George Hawks.
How are you, George? What can I do for you?
Nothing now. Nobody can.
How's that?
I just called to tell you I'm going to kill myself.
What did you say?
You heard me. It'll take you 20 minutes to get out to my place. By that time, I'll be dead.
Now, wait a minute, George. What? Hello? George! Operator!
Yes, sir?
Oh, this is the sheriff. That caller just came in here. Where was it from?
One moment, Sheriff.
If this is someone's idea of a practical joke...
Hello, Sheriff.
Yes?
That call was placed from 317 out on Gum Creek Road, the residence of Mr. George Hawks.
The sheriff raced out to the Hawks Ranch and found George Hawks dead, hanging in the barn. Then he made another discovery which prompted him to put in a call to the Texas Rangers. Ranger Jace Pearson was assigned to the case and drove to the Hawks Ranch to meet Sheriff Hansen.
Jace, am I glad to see you.
Howdy, Sheriff. It's been a long time.
Yeah, a month of Sundays. Now, I hope I didn't call you down here for nothing, Jace, but this looks mighty fishy to me. So I want you to take a look at the body.
Hasn't been taken down yet?
No, I put in a call to the coroner, but he was out somewhere. I left a message for him to come out here as soon as they could locate him.
How'd you find out about the body, Sheriff?
I got a phone call, Jace, about 9:15. Said it was George Hawks and he was going to kill himself. I thought maybe it was some joker, so I traced the call.
And?
It came from here all right. So I drove out fast as I could, but George was dead. Hanging by the neck in the barn. No pulse. Body still warm.
Sheriff, I know you didn't call me down here to investigate a routine suicide. What's the catch?
Well, I'm getting to that. Come in the barn. This is just the way he was when I found him. You notice that's a wire he's hanging from, not a rope.
Yeah. Cut off the clothesline, probably.
Huh? How'd you know?
Guessed. I saw the clothesline had been cut, part of it dragging on the ground in the yard.
You Rangers don't miss much, do you?
Not if we can help it, Sheriff.
Well, I want to show you something I found. Look at this, right under the body.
It's an oil drum.
Right. And the exact position I found it in, on its side. Now, you'll notice, Jace, that it's the only thing near enough that George could have stood on while he put the wire around his neck.
Here's the rim marks where it stood on the straw before it was tipped over.
Yeah, only he didn't stand on it. Look at this end of the drum. Thick with dust. Now, look at the other end. Dusty, too. Jace, there's not a sign of a footprint on either end of this oil drum.
You're right, Sheriff. He couldn't have climbed up in the loft and jumped, or that wire would have taken his head off.
Yeah, that's what I figured, and that's why I called you.
What about fingerprints?
Nope. Couldn't find any, just a few smears. What does it spell to you, Jace?
Just one word, and an unpleasant one. Murder. I got my camera out of the car and took pictures of the body. And we took down the broken clothesline and nosed around for more evidence. The sheriff went up to look over the house while I combed the barn. How'd you make out up at the house, Sheriff?
Nothing, Jace. Absolutely nothing. No note from George. Everything tidy. No sign of a struggle. Funny nobody's around.
Who would be ordinarily?
His wife, Millie. One of the hands. He had 2 men working for him last I heard. How you coming, Jace?
I found a couple of things, but not the thing I want.
What's that?
The tool that was used to cut the wire he's hanging on. All I found in the barn here was this pair of rusty pliers.
Well, couldn't they have been used to cut it?
No, Sheriff, they wouldn't cut butter.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, the cut's too clean.
How about footprints?
No luck yet. But I think I've found what the killer stood on to string the body up.
What?
The stepladder. I found it under the tool bench. Been used lately. Marks in the dust where it'd been dragged out and then pushed back.
Well, what are you fixing to do, Jace?
Going up the ladder and take a look at the beam where the wire's looped over.
Here, I'd better hold it for you. It's pretty rickety.
Thanks.
Find something?
I think so.
What is it, Jace?
Look at this. Stuck on a splinter where the wire went over the beam.
It's a piece of black thread.
Yeah. Black wool thread.
Well, are you a string saver, Jace?
In a case like this, yes. Let's take a look outside.
Mm-hmm.
What about a motive, Sheriff?
For suicide or murder?
Either.
Can't think of a one offhand. George was a pretty normal guy. Happily married. Didn't have any enemies that I know.
How about those 2 hands you mentioned?
Well, this new one, Brad Johnson, been working for George about 6 months. Only met him a couple of times. Seemed to be all right. In a quiet sort of way.
And the other?
Old Tom, oh, he's okay. Drinks a lot. George used to fire him regular and then take him back when he sobered up.
There's no good footprints in the yard here.
Nope. Ground's packed pretty hard.
Oh, Sheriff. Car coming up the house. Is that the coroner?
That? Well, no, that looks like... Well, sure, that's George Hawk's car. That's Millie driving it. Mrs. Hawk's.
Come on. We'll have to tell her, Sheriff. This is the only part of the job I really hate.
Yeah, I know, Jace.
Sheriff, what are you doing out this way? And...
Well, morning, Mrs. Hawks. This is Ranger Pearson.
Howdy, ma'am.
Ranger? What's happened? What's the matter?
I'm sorry to have to tell you, Millie, but George...
Something happened to George?
Yes. He's dead.
Oh, no.
Come on, Mrs. Hawks. We'll take you to the house.
I can't believe he'd do it.
Mrs. Hawks, when did you last see your husband?
Just a few hours ago at breakfast.
How did he appear at breakfast? I mean, was anything wrong? Was he upset about anything?
Well, yes, there was a big fight at breakfast. I never seen George get so mad.
A fight? Between you and your husband?
Well, all 4 of us were in on it. Old Tom and Brad was there, too. They're the hired hands.
How did it start?
I cooked breakfast for the 4 of us, like I always do. Old Tom was late, so we started to eat. When we were about through, old Tom came staggering in. He was half drunk.
Again, huh?
Yes, Sheriff, again. Then he and George had this big row, and George fired him for being drunk.
Go on.
Old Tom was fighting mad. He gets mean when he's been drinking. Started making all kinds of wild accusations.
What kind of accusations, Mrs. Hawks?
Lies, Ranger. All of them lies. He said he wouldn't have been drunk if Brad hadn't bought liquor for him.
Brad?
Well, that's what he claimed. Said Brad got him drunk on purpose so he... Oh, it was awful.
So he could what?
Well, it's a lie, Ranger.
What did he say, Mrs. Hawks?
Well, old Tom said to Brad, I wouldn't be drunk if you didn't buy me the stuff. You're always trying to get me out of the way so I won't see you... So I won't see you playing up to the boss's wife.
Then what happened?
Well, Tom left, and my husband started swearing and threatening Brad, accusing him of what Tom said. Brad said it was a lie, and then George threw some money in his face and told him to get off the place, that he was fired, too.
What did Brad do?
I thought for a minute he was going to hit George, but he didn't. He went outside, and a few minutes later I heard his car start, and he drove away. By this time, George was in a terrible rage. He even threatened to kill me. So I grabbed the car keys and ran.
Did he ask you where you were going?
Yes, he did, Ranger. And I told him I was going in town to see Mr. Harris, the lawyer, see about getting a divorce.
What time did you leave?
About 8:30. Ranger, you said you found him hanging in the barn. Well, if it was suicide, why are you asking me all these questions?
Because I don't think it was suicide, Mrs. Hawks. I think it was murder. After the coroner and the doctor arrived, the sheriff borrowed a horse from the corral. I got charcoal out of the trailer, and we headed for Tom's shack up in the hills.
There it is, Jace. Just around those rocks.
That Tom's horse, Sheriff? Grazing out back?
Yep.
He's around someplace. Up, charcoal.
Yep. I just can't see old Tom as a killer, Jace. He ain't the type.
Huntsville's full of them, Sheriff. Killers who aren't the type.
Oh,
charcoal. Oh, boy. Yeah. Let's try the front door.
Okay.
All right, Tom. Open up.
He's not here, Jace. I can see through the windows. Shack's empty. What the?
Somebody's shooting close by. Maybe Tom. That shot came from back up in that draw. Come on, Sheriff.
There he is. Back by that clump of trees.
Is that Tom?
Sure is. Hey, he's running toward the trees.
Hold it, Tom. Stay where you are. I'll put one over his head.
Ah. Yeah, he's starving. See what he's wearing, Jace?
Yeah. Black sweater.
What's all the commotion?
All right, Tom. Throw down that rifle.
Sure, Ranger. But, what for?
Why didn't you stop when I told you to?
Well, to tell the truth, Ranger, I didn't hear you. I'm kind of deaf. I heard you shot, though.
Yeah, that's right, Jace. He's hard of hearing.
What's that, Sheriff?
Oh, never mind. Why'd you shoot at us, Tom?
Shoot at you? Why, I never did no such thing.
What were you doing then?
Ain't no law against a man killing himself a rabbit for supper.
All right. Get his rifle, Sheriff. Let's go.
Huh? Where to?
To your shack first. We're going to have a long talk about George Hawks.
I'll tell you, Ranger, I didn't know George was dead until you told me a minute ago. What call would I have to kill him? If he was killed, he was my friend.
You don't seem very clear about what happened this morning, Tom.
Well, I was a bit foggy. I had me a couple of nips. But I do remember George getting mad and firing me.
What happened after that?
Well, I took a few more out of the bottle in my saddlebag. I don't remember much after that. I must have rode up here and fell asleep. Woke up a while ago. I was hungry, and I went out to get me a rabbit.
Tell me, Tom, do you often draw a blank when you've been drinking?
Do I what, Ranger?
Have a blank space. Do things you don't remember anything about later.
Oh, I suppose I have once or twice. Hey, wait a minute. I didn't do it. I couldn't have killed George. He was my friend.
These your wire cutters on the table, Tom?
Oh, yeah, they are.
I'll take them. And I think you'd better come along to town with us.
You are listening to Tales of the Texas Rangers, starring Joel McCrea as Ranger Jace Pearson at our new Sunday time. We hope that our many friends who have listened to us at the earlier hour will continue to be with us each Sunday. And for those of you who are hearing our program for the first time, we extend a warm and cordial welcome and invite you to be with us each Sunday from now on. And now we continue with tonight's case, Hanging by a Thread, an authentic story from the files of the Texas Rangers.
The finger was pointing straight at Tom. When we got back to the Hawks Ranch, there was a man in the back lot feeding the hogs. It was Brad Johnson, the third witness at the breakfast fight. While the sheriff took Tom into town, I got Brad's version of what happened.
And then he threw the money in my face, Ranger. $30. Told me I was fired. I wanted to hit him, but I didn't.
Then what, Brad?
Then I got my duffel bag, threw it in my car, and drove off.
Where'd you go?
To Finney. Drove around town for a few minutes and